I'm Richard Gearhart, founder of Gearhart Law, a full-service intellectual property law firm specializing in patents, trademarks, and copyrights.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, not an attorney, but I work at Gearhart Law doing marketing and I have my own startups.
Welcome to Passage to Profit, the road to entrepreneurship, where we talk with entrepreneurs, small businesses, and discuss the intellectual property that helps them flourish. Today, we have a very special guest. Her name is Niyc Pidgeon, and she's a triple certified coach and business mentor and founder of Unstoppable Success and the Positive Psychology Coach Academy certification.
And then two excellent presenters, Kimberly, Currie. How does your skin look, everybody out there? Kim can help you.
Mine is on the dry side. You can see it on the YouTube.
I love when we have people with skincare on. So she'll be talking about our skin. And then we have Herman, Dolce Jr. and Demaris Long, and they are a power team. They are the money crew. So let's talk money.
But before we get to our distinguished guests, it's time for IP in the news. And I guess we're going to be talking about one of my favorite actors, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He's like one of the most famous actors everywhere. And he's really got a new gig now with the TKO group, which is the group that owns WWE and the UFC. So these are both professional wrestling associations, as I'm sure you all know. And he was able to secure, as part of his deal with them, ownership of the word "The Rock" as a trademark.
And that is unusual because they own the characters and the marketing for the wrestlers in WWE. And the wrestlers don't get to own their own trademarks. Typically, we had a wrestler on here a few years ago and he explained the whole thing to us. So for a wrestler to be able to own his own trademark name, that's huge. But he's on the board now. So that was why they let him do it.
Right. And I think that's probably it. I mean, in order to own a piece of intellectual property that's owned by the WWE, you have to be like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to get there. You have to be that important. That's how tightly they control their intellectual property. So anyway, now it's time for Richard's Roundtable. And I'm going to ask Kenya, what do you think about all of this?
Well, I think it's because he's The Rock, right? I don't, and less than he's on the board of directors. He's very profitable. He's made the organization a lot of money. He's a strong brand by itself. So it's like, I don't know. I that holds a lot of juice when you're The Rock.
I mean, I think it's a pretty cool thing. And so I think it's kudos to him. And I know that his part of the Rock came from an association that he had with his father. And so I think it has a special sentimental attachment for him. So that's great. Niyc Pidgeon, what do you think about Dwayne "The Rock" and his trademark?
I think it's amazing. I mean, being able to own your own name and being able to protect your brand. And it's obviously been a fight for him for a long time. So fair play to him.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't just turn it over to him, right? I mean, he's been a famous moneymaker for a long time, but I guess it's now's the time, right? So
Absolutely.
Kimberly, what are your thoughts about this?
So I think we need to really think about the WWE and how there's just so much talent in that organization, and there's been so much talent throughout the years. So obviously this has been something that all of the talent has had to deal with, but none of them are quite as big as Dwayne Johnson. We know him by The Rock and Dwayne Johnson, right? So at this point, him getting the trademark after all these years probably is a really big victory for him. But imagine what that would have done for him 10 years ago when he got out of the WWE. So I think that it's a great thing for him. It's a great victory, but he's overcome not having that trademark by leaps and bounds. But we have to think about all of the talent that maybe that's how the only way that we know them is by their stage name. And maybe they should be fighting for a little bit more ownership of that trademark as they're trying to go in different endeavors as outside from the WWE.
No, that's a really good point. And I think it affects his ability to market himself, for example, in film. I mean, he had the nickname "The Rock," right? But I don't think they could use it in the credits. They always had to say Dwayne Johnson. And so now he can use that to capitalize on his other content. And I mean, he's already famous, but and maybe more symbolic than anything else, but it'll certainly help him. So, um, Herman, what do you think?
To be honest, I'm shocked. I can't believe they actually gave it up. I would be very curious to find out what it's actually valued at, The Rock. What is that worth to WWE to actually give it up, or what was that worth to Dwayne? Because I'm pretty sure he's not getting any monetary gains, like a payment every month for being on board. But I wonder what that was worth to him to actually get his name. But congratulations and kudos to him. And something Demaris and I always stress: ownership of IP, intellectual property, and even your name is just crucial in all businesses that you have.
That's a really great point. I wonder if WWE got a big tax write-off for.
Oh, right.
Maybe that was part of the motivation. And Damaris, what is your opinion?
Sure. I think it's a great thing that happened. I'm kind of piggybacking off what Kimberly said, with the idea of having it because we only know them by their names. I think this might open a door for new WWE people to be able to have the opportunity to own that. So overall, I think it's great, and I'm happy to see what happens with the rest of the talent that comes up.
No, that's a
Excellent.
really great point. I think that a lot of wrestlers, have mixed feelings about the ownership of the WWE and their characters because they put a lot of time and effort into developing their personas, and to not be able to do it once they leave the organization and capitalize on any of the effort that they put in. I think it's definitely bittersweet. On the one hand, they get the benefits of the WWE. On the other hand, once you're gone, there's not much you can do with it. So that's a really great point.
Yeah. So, Richard, if our listeners want to learn more about trademarks, where can they go?
I'm glad you asked. You can go to learnmoreabouttrademarks.com. And if you're interested in patents, which are kind of related to trademarks, you can go to learnmoreaboutpatents.com. There you can book a consultation with me, Richard Gearhart, or you can download some free content that will help you understand trademarks and patents even better. So thank you for that. And make sure you go to learnmoreabouttrademarks.com and learnmoreaboutpatents.com. Now it's time for our distinguished guest, Niyc Pidgeon. Welcome to the show, Nick. Very happy to have you here. As I mentioned at the beginning, you're a triple certified coach. I think that's the first time we've had a triple certified coach and business mentor on the show. Usually they're just certified, right? But you're triple certified. And you're also the founder of Unstoppable Success and the Positive Psychology Coach Academy certification. So tell me, how do you maintain a positive attitude in the times that we're living in?
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm very proud that I own the trademarks for my companies. So
very good. Yeah.
I think with a positive attitude, it's very much about understanding you don't have to be positive all of the time. And there's actually value in life's challenges, and we can learn so much and we can grow so much through those things as well. But when it comes to feeling good in your day, it really is the small daily activities that add up to produce a big result. So it doesn't have to be hard. It can be really simple. It's those little things that you do every single day.
Give us some examples of little things like, maybe finding your car keys or something like that. Does that count as a positive moment?
I mean, you can celebrate that for sure. I think one of the simplest things is coming back to gratitude. So if you feel grateful for things in your day, the people in your life, your health, whatever it is for you, you can't not feel good. It's totally free to do that. And it's just reminding ourselves that we have so much and we are so much already.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm looking at our show notes. I went to your website, love your website. And for those of you who haven't seen Nick's website yet, she's all about happiness, which in positive psychology, which I just love. And it says, discover how to use the science of happiness to help you. So what is the science of happiness?
So positive psychology is known as the science of happiness and the science of success. So it teaches us what we can do to be flourishing and thriving. And there's 5 or 6 key components. So where positive psychology came from originally, it was invented in the year 2000. So it's still pretty new. And it was designed as a counterbalance to psychology as usual, which focused traditionally on disorder and disease. So one of the theories found in positive psychology, that if we have positive emotions, engagement with our work and what we're doing, relationships, purpose, accomplishment, and good health, then we will be flourishing, thriving, and successful.
Yeah, that's great. I just was curious. I read on your Instagram that you've helped get yourself and your clients over $50 million in sales. So I'm curious as to how you've turned this into a business model for yourself and your clients.
I mean, I've been doing this for over 13 years now, and it used to be a very weird thing to be involved in. People didn't know what positive psychology was. They were like, Nick, what are you doing? Now, I think it's much more mainstream to understand the link between psychology and human behavior and being successful and making money. So whether you're looking at a sales process or you're looking at designing a business model, it always comes back to you. And I really teach that we get to do life and business in the way that works for us. So the more you know yourself, the more you're going to be able to apply that and work to your strengths and be more successful across the board.
That's great. So, what motivated you to get in the business of being positive and teaching other people to maintain positivity?
So I had what I would say is my first early mentor when I was 17 or 18 years old. I didn't realize he was a mentor at the time. It was my ex-boyfriend's father, and he was an entrepreneur. And when we went on a vacation, he slipped some positive quotes into the passport holder. So when I was on the airplane, I was looking at the tickets and I found these things. So there was, whether you think you can or you think you can't, either way, you're right. And
Right.
if it's to be, it's up to me. And I pulled out these pieces of paper. I was like, what is this? I didn't know what positivity was. And I couldn't really wrap my head around it. But I started to listen and learn from him. And he was an entrepreneur and crazy successful. He'd actually built up businesses from nothing. He was an orphan. So I started to really watch and observe and listen and learn and kind of carve a path from that initial spark of interest.
But what sort of attracted you to this field? I mean, so was it just the quotes and you found that so motivating, or were there other things, other reasons that you decided to get involved?
I mean, I noticed that it started to make me feel good and I could see the power and the potential in it. I also had a conversation with that boyfriend who was a professional cricket player who was seeing a sports psychologist. And he came back from a session and he said, Nick, I've had this amazing experience. I was doing this thing called visualization in the session. And the psychologist was telling me to imagine that I'm on the cricket field and I've got the fielders and I'm looking for where I'm going to hit the ball. And he said, don't look at the fielders, look for the gaps in between them instead. Now that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I thought, imagine if we looked for the gaps in life, we looked for the opportunities instead of the obstacles. So I was actually supposed to be an automotive engineer. And I was signed up to study engineering at university. Then from that one conversation, I totally changed my career path, canceled the engineering degrees. I thought, there's something in this. If we can shift the way that we think, what might be possible then?
That is excellent. I have ripped the mic away from Richard, figuratively, of course. Noah would kill me if I did that to a mic. But there's a couple questions in the notes that we have on you that I am just dying to ask you. So the first one is that one topic of discussion you indicated you could talk about was the psychology of getting really rich. So can you please enlighten us?
Absolutely. I mean, what does richness mean, first of all? So for me, richness is the real rich is actually relationships. So it's very exciting, very attractive to talk about wealth or talk about money. And it's a real hook for so many people. So leading with how to get rich using psychology gets people's attention. Then we actually explore what is rich. So yes, you can make money through psychology because we know when you're happier, you are more successful. We know that when you're positive, you're 39% more productive than when you're negative or neutral. So all of these things do help you make money. And also, we want to focus on the process, the experience, and actually feeling good along the way as well.
That's great. I'm glad that you brought up the whole like wealth paradigm because we actually have somebody in the studio, Herman Dolce, who was on Power Move earlier, we were talking a little bit about like what wealth looks like and like how we rank like what's important to us. So would you just kind of break down like how people can kind of create that ranking system in their life in terms of like what's important to them and like how they can kind of break through those thresholds and like get to the other side of what wealth looks like from a transformative perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first thing is to take stock of where you feel you're at right now. So I would break down the different areas of your life and I would give yourself a rating from 1 to 10. Super simple. How satisfied do you feel in your career, in your relationships, in your health, in your spirituality, in your personal growth? Because then you've got an initial set point and you can start to see the gap. I would then ask the question, what would it look like to be a 10 out of 10? Because if you don't know what you're shooting for, how on earth are you going to get there? And then you can start to ask, what would be one positive step that I could take in that direction to move closer towards the goal? And I think that success and making money, it's so different, it's so complex, and it's very, very different the way that we want to experience it from person to person. So having that clarity on what success looks like and means for you really is the first step. Then we start to look at, why do you want that goal? Like, why is it important? Why is it meaningful? Because making money, being an entrepreneur, it's not the easiest journey. Let's face it. So if you haven't got that true north within you, the mission, the purpose to connect in with, like that's really the thing that's going to get you through the hard days.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think understanding the why is a big part of being a successful entrepreneur. And really understanding that, I think it has to be, at least for me, it has to be more than just making money. It has to be about the relationships. It has to be about the challenges. I enjoy, solving business challenges. I enjoy serving our clients, right, and helping them, become better entrepreneurs and securing their ideas through intellectual property. All of those things are really what sustains us. And I think it's easy to fall into a trap where you just think of things as financial success. But really, I think what's going to matter at the end of the day, to me, are the things that I just mentioned. So,
Right. And there's another question that I want to ask you from your list of questions, and it is, what is it that commonly stops people, and what does it take to become truly unstoppable? Because I think we all have these great intentions, and we get going, and then boom, something side rails us.
It's usually ourselves that stop us. It's usually something that comes up in terms of confidence or self-belief, whether you realize it or not, because that might actually present itself as self-sabotaging behaviors because you don't believe on a conscious or subconscious level that you're deserving of success, or maybe you've got a fear of the failure that comes with success often. So it's really interesting looking at and getting honest with our patterns to see actually, why didn't I break through to that next level of success right now? And that's a question that I love to ask. So when students come to work with us, I say, why didn't you create the result already? And that self-reflection is really powerful. And for me, and this is actually something we were talking about Dwayne Johnson earlier, one of the things that he teaches and shares is that when your back's up against the wall, you've got nowhere to go apart from forwards. So I think that unstoppable energy, that unstoppable feeling is the knowing that you will never quit, because the only way that you can fail is if you quit. So if you make that commitment to yourself to keep on going no matter what, then you know that you'll always be successful.
yeah, a lot of the entrepreneurs that we've worked with fall into that category. They just have a determination, and I don't know where that comes from. I mean, I don't know if that's something you're born with or somehow, some way but it's a part of your DNA. And so when things get tough, you just hang in there and you keep going, no matter what. I mean, is that how can people develop that that stamina to keep going when things get really tough?
It's actually interesting because positive emotions have an effect that's called broadening and building. So they actually open up our thinking so that we are more solution focused. So the more you experience joy, excitement, enthusiasm, gratitude, you can solve problems, build relationships, and reach your goals more easily. But the second benefit of positive emotions is it's almost like storing the results or the effect for later use. Because as well as having that broadening effect, they're building your psychological toolkit so that when you come into your hard times, you're able to navigate those hard times more easily. So maybe you're able to hold on to the fact that this is temporary, or maybe you're able to share a laugh with a friend, even though everything's going wrong. So it's really about how can we live with greater well-being more of the time, so that whether it's a great time or a hard time, we get to fully experience and move through it all with more grace and more ease.
Okay, so there's another thing I really, really want to know the answer to. So, how can you grow a world-class mastermind? I love masterminds, and I have an idea for one that I want to do with a project I'm working on. So, I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about this.
Well, absolutely trial and error, first of all. So I've always done a lot wrong so that I can do it right. I'm not scared of testing and failing forwards. And we built a really, really amazing system over the last 7 years of running masterminds that is very, very slick. So I really love to have personalized mentoring and coaching and teaching with a light team. And technology is amazing now. It supports you in systemizing so much. I think the most important thing when you're running a mastermind is thinking about how do you actually love to lead? Do you love to do things in person? Do you want to do them online? What does it look like for you to have your best day at work? And design it with that in mind, as well as facilitating the client result as well.
So just in terms of all the, because hear, and I want to be truthful, right? So there's a lot of gurus that are out there, right? Everybody is positive thought, positive thinking. Like, how are you differentiating yourself in this very, like, I feel crowded market of like self-help and folks who are teaching people how to be positive?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I just read an article about this exact thing, talking about life coaches and is it a fraudulent industry? And I love reading this because I think it's really progressive and it gives us the opportunity to be leading the conversation. The difference with positive psychology is it's based on evidence and research. So it's all scientifically grounded. It's tested in labs with these amazing researchers so that we're actually moving thought forwards. And we're looking at what is it that works and how specifically does it work. So we're looking at, let's take gratitude as an example. Does it work better to write a gratitude letter to someone to thank them? Or does it work better to share with somebody else 3 good things that have happened in your day? Somebody is actually put in work to test those things to see what it is that has the impact. The other thing that we saw, there was a huge study that was done on Facebook users. It was something like 700,000 people that were in the study to look at the effect of positive versus negative content. And they actually manipulated the news feed so that they reduced positive content or reduced negative content. And what they saw was that when they reduced the negative content and increased positive, users of Facebook created and generated more positive content as a result. So we're influenced by this emotional contagion, whether it's in an interaction in person or just consuming content online.
That's fascinating. I just wonder, for example, if you're in an environment where there is a lot of negativity, what are some of the things that somebody can do to maintain a positive outlook? Because what you're suggesting is that we're can be influenced by other people, right, and their attitudes. And so, if you're in a with a group of people or in a situation where you hear a lot of negativity, you really kind of have to put a lot of energy almost into fighting that. So, what are some of your thoughts and tips for dealing with that?
Well, you're right, because you need 3 positive emotions to outweigh 1 negative. So if you're surrounded by a lot of negative talk, you need to be mindful, how are you replacing that with at least 3 positives? The other thing is, I really love to invite friends and myself into no complaining, no blaming, and no gossip. That's just a rule, almost like a philosophy or a principle that I have for my life, my friendships, and also our coaching programs. And it works so well because when you share with people, like, listen, we don't gossip around here, it facilitates such an environment of trust and just clean energy. And the fact is, you can't always control how other people show up. So I used to have my parents and my family tell me, Nick, you cannot be an entrepreneur. You're terrible at it. You're so bad at this thing. You just need to go and get a job.
So
So
that's
I
not exactly a positive message. No.
absolutely not. I mean, for them, they were trying to be supportive, but for me, it felt like they were going against what I really wanted. So I had to flood my brain with so much positive podcasts, meditations to try and keep myself on track to drown out that noise because I knew intuitively that entrepreneurship was my path.
So you're one of the things that you're recommending then is if you're in a spot or if you're confronted with a lot of negativity from other people is look for positive sources of content. So for example, you can go online and you can find motivational speakers, people talking about their stories with positive outcomes, and you can focus on those, and then that's a way to help you kind of kick the blues.
Yep, absolutely. And the more that you surround yourself with hopeful and optimistic people, the more your well-being will shift and the more hopeful and optimistic you will become as well.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I like to every once in a while I'll do a little workout, and I always like to have something positive either in my headphones or on the TV in front of me while I'm exercising because it helps me get a better workout, right? And sometimes I'll even like watch a war movie or something like that. And seeing all those people getting shot at makes me want to run even faster, right? So it does have it is pretty interesting uh how the what you're consuming has an effect on where you're at in any given moment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that toxic positivity is also a thing. So you don't have to be happy all of the time. And it's not about bypassing the challenges in life. It's about maintaining a positive attitude most of the time, but also allowing yourself to feel emotion because all emotion is valid. Also allowing yourself to see that the challenges are actually changing you as well.
So we have to take a commercial break right now. So we'll come back more with Niyc Pidgeon, who is a triple certified coach and business mentor. You're listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart.
Welcome back, listeners. You are listening to Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart, our media maven, Kenya Gipson, and our special guest, Niyc Pidgeon. And we are talking about the science of happiness and positivity and how it helps make you money and helps you be successful. So,
I'm
Niyc,
very positive on this subject. I'm feeling very positive right now.
I
I am positive I'm going to enjoy this.
So we ended the last little bit. Richard had talked about working out, and there is something on here about how to prioritize and optimize health as an entrepreneur. I know sometimes I'll sit down and start working before I exercise, and sometimes I don't get as much exercise in as I'd hope. So how do we prioritize that?
I mean, I think when you know that moving your body moves your mood, it gives you an extra incentive to do it. And I think it's also telling yourself that doing something is better than doing nothing. So I used to find it really, really hard to go out for a 30-minute or a 40-minute run because it was so built up as this like big thing and it was a mountain to climb inside of my mind. So instead, I started to say to myself, just get out of the door for 10 minutes, walk, run, just start. And then what I found was that once I was out there, I would run for 30 minutes. So it's almost like you just have to do something and get going and also find an exercise that you love. So if you don't love to go boxing, don't do boxing. If you don't love to dance, don't dance. I think it's like we get to carve our own path and do the things that we really love, which makes us actually want to show up and do it every day.
Excellent.
I agree with you. So outside of my duties here at iHeart, I'm also a fitness trainer. And one of the things how I got into fitness was that I signed up to the gym to teach because I would get paid to do my workouts, right? So that's been, I know that's probably like a little cheat, but I have to show up for these people, which I love to do, but I also am getting paid as an incentive. I mean, and I'm not making millions of dollars, but there's an even exchange for me because I'm getting my workout and there's compensation. So I agree with you and like whatever it is to motivate. In terms of like people though, who I feel like kind of get into a situation where they feel a little blocked, right? So maybe they can't put that pep in their step. Maybe they don't even have it in them to do that 10 minutes. Like, what is your recommendation to get people just taking that initial first step?
I mean, the other thing that really works is just stepping. So getting out and walking, it doesn't have to be prescriptive exercise. Movement and physical activity completely changes the way that you feel. It's linked to alleviating anxiety, depression, like all of the things. So I think it's also, if you don't want to do a workout, you don't have to do it. Just focus on moving more. You can set an alarm on your phone to stand up. You could set an alarm on your phone to go out and walk for 5 minutes. Those really simple things, going up and down the stairs, really easy things you can do at home. There really is no excuse.
Yeah, I mean, as they say, the longest journey begins with a single step, right? So just taking baby steps to the things that you want to do, exercise is a great strategy. I want to talk a little bit about fear. We've been talking about positivity as being sort of the holy grail of sort of, human being. But what about fears? Isn't fear also a motivator? And isn't there also going to be a certain amount of fear in our lives that we have to cope with? And does it make sense just to kind of gloss over it with positivity?
I mean, there's definitely fears that are going to come up in life. And I think of fear as a sign that you're growing. It gives you an opportunity to see where the edge of your comfort zone is, and you can decide to move through it. So in terms of motivation, you can have a towards motivator, which is a result that you want to create or a vision that you want to reach. You can also have an away from motivator, which is what is going to happen if I don't do this thing? Where might I end up? How bad might things get? What is the cost of me not moving through this comfort zone or this edge? And we're each motivated by different things. So I think it's also looking at playing around with, okay, if I focus on the goal, how much energy does it give me towards it? Or if I focus on what might happen if I don't do this, how much energy and motivation does that give me?
So you're suggesting that we pay attention to our fears and we try to find ways to use those as motivational tools.
Yeah, you can use it as a motivational tool. You can also ask yourself the question, what is the actual fear in the first place? So fear is this weird thing that kind of hangs out in the background. And the more we try and push it away, the stronger it can get. So I say name it, claim it, and choose to move through it. So name it. What is the fear? What does it feel like? What is it you're actually scared of? And own it. Tell yourself, like, I am actually scared of this thing. Then it has no power over you. Then the final step, choose to move through it. So I always look at, for this bit, what can you control and what can't you control? Because it sends us insane trying to control the things that we can't control. So you get clear in the separation between those things. Let go of what you can't control. Choose to control what you can, which is yourself, and then take a first step towards that. So that might look like doing some sort of peak state practice or morning ritual to shift your energy, and then approach the problem or the challenge to take a step from a new energized place.
Wow, that is great advice. I want to change track a little bit because I see here on these show notes that Sir Richard Branson. So let's talk about Sir Richard Branson a little bit. If anybody doesn't know, he is like the world's best known entrepreneur and an amazing person. So he wrote an article about you on his personal blog, and you were also featured in Money alongside him and Shaquille O'Neal. How does all this happen?
So with Richard, he's amazing. The first time I ever met Richard, he was dressed as Peter Pan. He's so much fun. And we're going back to NECA this year, which is really exciting. Now, when I was starting my businesses a long time ago, 2012. I think I'd had a business for a little while, and I took investment from Virgin Money for the huge amount of £8,500. I then turned that £8,500 into a multi-million-dollar business. And the first year I was invited to do a Google Hangout with Sir Richard, just as part of this investment thing. So I did a Google Hangout with him, with Elon Musk. And then in 2019, I ended up going to Necker Island and sitting at dinner with Richard. And I said, Richard, do you remember when you did that Google Hangout with Elon Musk and he was in California, you were on Necker, and then there was a girl who was in Newcastle? He said, yeah, I do actually. I said, that girl was me. I said, you gave me £8,500 back then, and I turned it into a multi-million-dollar business. And he was fascinated by the story. I then went back to Necker last year, and I took 9 of my students, all of who'd broken through the $1 million mark. I said, Richard, I'm back. I've got 9 entrepreneurs. They've done it too. And he said, Nick, can I interview you? I thought, hang on a minute, what is going on with my life here? Richard Branson wants to interview me. So he said, after breakfast, let's sit down and I want to know about your story. And he went away and he said, I'm going to write this up onto a blog. And I was just so impressed by his character to do what he said he was going to do and put that article on the blog, that it just meant so much to me that he'd kept his word. And it's such an inspirational story for entrepreneurs all around the world, because I started from nothing. I literally had nothing.
Well,
So for
yeah, and what surprises me a little, but maybe it shouldn't, with someone like Richard Branson, you would think he knows it all. Why is he asking anybody else? But I think people that are truly smart and really successful in making it always learn as much as they can from anywhere, right?
Yeah, I think it's the humility, like we're always the student. I think there's a
Right.
big risk in being too proud or too in your ego. We're learning every single day, and there's so much that we can learn when we have the right attitude towards it.
Did you find Elon Musk and Richard Branson to be positive people?
Richard's definitely a positive person. He is so much fun. Elon, I actually only spoke with for a short time on that Zoom call, and he ended up crying when I asked him what the most emotional thing was that he'd done in business. So it was really interesting because he was telling about when he had sold PayPal and he was faced with choosing to invest in either SpaceX or Tesla. And he felt like these companies were his kids, and he didn't want either one of his children to starve. So he put all of his money into both and had no money for himself and had to sleep on a friend's couch. And I mean, there's so much positivity in that story of going all in and taking a bet on yourself, taking a big risk, and then look how it's paid off for him.
That's amazing. After receiving all that money, he didn't even hold back enough to pay for an apartment, right? So that's commitment.
Yeah, you bring up a good point too, like even about risk taking, right? I mean, and sometimes we can have like this negative mindset towards that. What advice do you give towards people when they have to take a big risk or they have to make a big shift or a change, and like how to overcome the negative narrative that might be there when it comes to that?
Sometimes we need that big leap of faith to really create the breakthrough. I spoke earlier on about the small daily actions that compound to create success, but it's that combined with being able to see the opportunity and fearlessly go for your dreams in that moment. And I think that my practice or my learning has very much been, if it doesn't work out, you're still further along than you would have been if you hadn't have taken the step, because you're going to have the lessons and learnings that you've got from it.
That's good. Yeah. Well, we did that when we started Passage to Profit. Everybody thought we were
did.
crazy.
And here we are.
And we're still crazy. But
I mean, 5 years later, think about the little seed that was sown. And
Yeah.
it's been almost 6 years.
It
The
was your
show's been
idea,
on the
Kenya.
air. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Right. And here we are. We're syndicated in 20 more markets
Right.
and
and we have a top 5%
global podcast.
global podcast.
Yeah, we're-
So
Yeah.
We're in the top 5% of podcasts globally. How that happened was, well, it was a lot of hard work, right?
it was a lot
A
of
lot
hard work.
Yeah.
So, Nick, I wanted to ask you about your book, Now is Your Chance. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Now is Your Chance is a tool book that gives you a tool, something simple, every single day for 30 days so that you can start living your happiest life using positive psychology. So someone called it the Bible for happiness, which I just loved. And the other thing that I love about it is you can just flip it open to a page. If you don't want to follow it day by day, just flip it open to a page, see what's in store for you, put that tool into action, and I guarantee you'll feel better as a result.
Great. And where can people find the book?
It's on Amazon, it's in bookstores. You can grab it from my website, nickpidgeon.com as well.
And can you spell your name, please?
Absolutely. Niyc, and then pigeons like the bird, but with a D in it. Pidgeon.
That's a very unusual way to spell Nick. How did you, any information about how that name came about?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. So Nick, now is your chance, Niyc. People say, oh, did you change your name so that it would be now is your chance? And I said, no, it's felt like that before. And then the book, just kind of the idea for the book came in afterwards. But my full name is Nicola. And I actually got bullied really badly when I was a kid, when I was 11 or 12. And I went through this little micro identity crisis where when I moved schools, I wanted to reinvent myself. So I changed the spelling of my name. So it came from way back then, and it's just stuck with me ever since.
That's a great story. Thank you so much. We've enjoyed talking with you on Passage to Profit. I feel motivated and inspired to become more positive in my life. And we'll be back with more Passage to Profit right after this. Welcome back, everybody. It's Passage to Profit with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our co-host, Kenya Gipson. And our special guest today, Niyc Pidgeon, who is a positivity coach. She is triple certified, which means that she's really, really good. So, buy her book. Now is your chance, and connect with her on her website. So now it's time for Fireside, Elizabeth. Oh, now it's time for Power Move. So Kenya, who's up for Power Move today?
So I'm really excited about Power Move today because we actually have both of our power movers here in the studio with us today. So Herman Dolce and his partner, Demaris Long, and got an opportunity to have a great conversation with you earlier about how you are changing mindsets when it comes to money and helping people out of those negative situations when it comes to their finances. So I just wanted you to share a little bit about your platform super quick and where people can find you and what you help them do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us on the show. It's been a great time so far. So again, my name is Herman Dolce. I'm founder of Bella Sloan Enterprises, and I came with my amazing CEO, Demaris Long. And we have a financial literacy firm where we primarily teach people of all ages, even people as low as high school, about financial literacy, fixing their credit, understanding credit, and using that to start businesses and getting funding in their business's name.
Great. Great. And we're going to hear a little bit more from you after this next segment, but on to Elizabeth and Fireside.
Yes. Well, Fireside is an online video directory of B2B businesses. I'm no longer calling it Fireside. I changed the name to Blue Street.
Oh, Blue Street. I'm
But
sorry.
no, everybody still calls it Fireside.
I'm so branded with
That's okay.
Fireside.
I know. So I'm still working on the website with the designer, and it's frustrating, as many people who've worked on websites know, but I'm still working on that. And I have my podcasts. I have Jersey podcast with Danielle Woolley, where we talk about cats. And I do want to say here, there's some other things I'm working on I'm not going to get into, but Richard and I just got back from PodFest in Florida. What an amazing time we had. We learned so much about everything to do with podcasting. And one thing that we learned that was just blew me out of the water. Everyone I've told is kind of like, oh, that's nice. But this blew me out of the water. YouTube is moving to translate every video into every language and make the lips match the words. So if you're on YouTube, think about it. You may be talking to somebody, I don't know, in India in their language. If you've got an international business, you should say that every time you go on YouTube. Anyway, I just think it's going to be a real game changer.
I think it's a great idea, but it's kind of scary because, what if they get it wrong, right? And the translation, these are all machine translations.
Or your mouth doesn't match up.
Your mouth doesn't
you look
match
crazy.
up. And so I hope they've perfected this because you could be talking to somebody in a foreign country and telling them things and they're like, what? Those crazy Americans.
Some guy saying, I think all Americans are horrible people. And you're like, no, what? No,
Well, I'll
that's not what
finally
he
get
said
to
at all.
speak French,
Yeah, that's
There you
right.
go.
right?
So I learned a lot. That was one of the things, and I'm putting it to work in some of my newer projects that I'll talk about as time goes on. But let's get back to Herman Dolce and Demaris Long and hear more about their business. It's called Bella's Loan LLC. Oh no, Bella Sloan.
Sloan. Mhm.
Bella Sloan.
Yes.
So it's spelled Bella's Sloan, or you could call it Bella's Loan, LLC.com. Anyway, tell us all about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so Bella Soul Enterprises is a financial literacy company. We basically, like he mentioned earlier, we teach people the importance of personal credit, business credit, and also giving them the fundamental ideas of what it means to actually run a business and to fund that business and to scale and grow on a more corporate level.
And do you help people raise money?
Raise money? No, show you
No?
how to get money and be structured properly for your business. Not necessarily raise it though.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
what are some of the things you tell your clients?
Oh, that's a good one here. He's more of the teacher.
So, yes, that's my favorite thing to do is to teach about it. So some of the things we teach our clients is number one, get your credit together. A lot of people don't know much about credit and how to leverage it. So that's the first thing we teach them, how to fix their credit, get those collections off, things like that. The secondary thing we teach them is how to structure your business properly so that you're able to get as much capital as possible. So what I mean by that is when you set up your LLC, make sure it's a good business name. You have an address, business phone number, business email. You want to look as professional as possible before you go to Chase or Bank of America or American Express. You want to look pro to them. And in combination with your good credit and a business that is structured properly, now you're able to get capital in your business's name that's not in your personal name. So you can max out these cards and it's not going to hurt your personal credit at 0% interest. So it's cheap money when you're first starting out your business, which is very important to new entrepreneurs.
That's a great suggestion because getting the money together to start
Mhm.
is often one of the stumbling blocks for new businesses. Do you have to present like a business plan when you're talking with the banks?
So when you're first starting out to build a relationship with these banks, no, you don't need to have a business plan. But rule of thumb is you should have a business plan because we teach our clients, here's how you can get 25, 30, 40, $100,000. I would love for you to personally have a business plan so you're able to execute effectively. But primarily the banks want to make sure that you have good credit personally because if you took care of your personal credit, then they feel you take care of the business's credit also.
Right. So once the entrepreneur secures the money, what are usually the next steps?
So what are usually the next steps is investing in their business. So usually they hire more people for their business. They solidify infrastructure. They put it into marketing. They get better websites, things like that that help generate more business for them. And a lot of them actually just get more inventory for their business so they can scale.
So I've heard repeatedly, maybe it's different now because I haven't checked it for a few years, but for companies to get investment funding, they kind of have to be run by a white man. Is that still true?
No, not necessarily. If your paperwork is together, if your business is structured properly, it's actually not as hard as some people think. Now, when you're trying to get investments from other people, that's
Mhm.
when they're going to ask for a business plan. That's where they're going to ask for, let me see revenue, profit and loss, etc. Because the way we teach it is how to do personal guarantee funding, where they look at your personal finances in terms of your credit alone. And if that's good, then sky's pretty much the limit.
Yeah, Elizabeth raises a good point because I think there's like a big misconception, especially in communities of color and
Mm.
even with investors who don't necessarily look like us, which is one of the reasons why Power Move is a play in the show is because, we have a great news talk audience that we speak to and we want to get people who look like us in front of people who don't look like us when it
Mm.
comes to investment opportunities. So, how should we as a community of color be positioned in the marketplace when we're looking at investments and like people looking at us as an investment?
Presentation is everything. So again, the name of my company is Bella Sloan Enterprises. I named it after my firstborn daughter. So when I present the business to American Express. I like to call my banks business partners because they're my first investors. So when I present myself to them, they tell me what they want from me. It's like, hey, is your business structured properly? Do you have a real business address, a real business phone number? My business email is info@bellasloanenterprises.com, not bellasloan@gmail. That doesn't look
Right.
pro. That doesn't look professional. We have a real 800 number. It's not my cell phone. So I already know what my first investors require of me. So that's what I teach and position myself to raise as much capital as possible. Now, after I've executed on that and I'm trying to get $500,000, $1 million from angel investors or investors that don't look like me, I know what they require. What are the revenues? How is your business structured? How many employees do you have? What does your HR look like? So if we put $1 million or $5 million in here, do you know what that's going to turn into? What are your numbers? It's almost like Shark Tank. When you go on there, you better know your numbers, Kevin O'Leary says,
Yeah.
or you're going to drown in the Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Nick, do you have a question or comment?
I definitely think that making yourself look bigger than you are is a smart move when you're starting out. Coming from the UK, we always charge in dollars rather than in pounds because nobody knows what the pound is. So whether it's your business structure, and I think it's a valid point. When I moved to the States, it's exactly what I had to do when I was starting out as well. And I just don't think this information is readily available for entrepreneurs. So I love what you guys are doing because people really, really need it.
Right. And with entrepreneurship on the rise, I read the other day that 2 out of 5 Americans now are thinking about starting their own businesses. And one of the first things you want to do is ask yourself, well, where do I start? Well, sometimes getting capital is really important. You don't necessarily want to put your own savings at risk, right? And a lot of times entrepreneurs are starting businesses later in their careers. So they might be tapping into money that they were saving for their kids' college or for their retirement. It certainly helps a lot if they have the option to go to a bank and get money right from the get-go, and where they're not having to put up their personal assets, right? So it's a big step. So what else do you help your clients with?
What else do we do?
So another thing we help our clients is actually connecting them with people like you guys. Right. So that's super important because sometimes once they get the capital, they're like, all right, well, where do I go market my business? Or where do I go fulfill my t-shirt order? Or who's going to help me build the website? Because they got the money now, not exactly know who the proper vendors, because Demaris always talks about making yourself look as corporate as possible. So we like to call ourselves the connectors. So we Bellasone Enterprises started another academy. We call it Bellasone Academy. And we have our mentees that we call our executors because we give you this extra information. We want you to execute on it. And then we have these calls every Wednesday night and we connect them with different people. Like, hey, you want to start a podcast? Let me invite Kenya on the show and she'll give you some behind the scene tips on what to do. Or you want to learn how to market your business? Let me invite a marketer to come here to teach you what to do, because we learned during the pandemic that a lot of money was printed and a lot of money was wasted because we had to take some accountability that we got people a lot of money, but they didn't know what to do with it specifically once they got it. So we took some accountability, started Bellasone Academy to ensure them that we connected them to the right people.
That's really great.
Yeah, I was just going to say, a really important piece of business is the relationships that you have. So, we heard Nick talk before about sitting next to Richard Branson, and then he writes an amazing blog for her. And I'm sure that that has helped her business substantially. So it's a lot about who you know and who you connect with, whether it's for helping with promotion or just getting information, finding out about new opportunities that you hadn't heard about before. I think all of that is that relationship piece that you're doing through your meetings, I think is really positive.
Absolutely. One amazing connection is Kenya. We call it proximity to power. So we were speaking on another stage at PodCon, and Kenya pulled up. She's like, "Listen, you need to be on this show too, Passage to the Prophet show." And I'm like, "Listen, we look forward to it." And as I'm sitting here, we're on a top podcast globally, so. So thank you, Kenya.
Of course.
And I think you brought up a good point too, because I remember when I was in corporate a long time ago, marketing got a bunch of money. And I'm like, why does marketing get all the money? And it's because if nobody knows that your product exists, then so what, right? So, and I think a lot of people overlook the importance of marketing, and a lot of people don't understand all the different marketing vehicles out there. Like we recently spoke to somebody who really had no idea what digital marketing was about. Like didn't even know that you could target a certain geo area and a certain demographic with your ads online. And I think that, if you're giving people the whole piece of the pie, like the whole pie instead of just one little piece, that really is helpful too.
Absolutely.
Nick, do you
Absolutely.
have any comments there?
Yeah, I think it's invaluable. It's a minefield when you start up in business. So if you can be the link to these resources, whether it's hiring team or connecting with opportunities, I think it's smart as well because they remember you as the person that helped them, not just with
Right.
the one thing, but also opening up this whole new world of opportunities for them as well.
Yeah, word of mouth has been major for our business. And it's absolutely taken us to the next level.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So absolutely. And just to go back to the relationship piece, it's so important. And I think people who are maybe start out in the corporate environment and then end up in the entrepreneurial environment, there's a transition there. So if you are thinking that you want to start your own business, and you maybe are not sure, you need to start trying to build a network before you leave
Hmm.
your corporate environment. Because if you just go from corporate, where it's your networks are mostly internal in corporate,
Mhm.
right? But if you're going to be an entrepreneur, your networks are out there in the world, and you want to start trying to build that network early before you make the move.
Yeah, and that's what we teach we have a foundation called Blueprint Foundation. He started it. So we teach the kids that too. So we help like young athletes, we help young children in camps understand that importance too. So we teach them all that process of being able to build that network so that when they do transition into being adults, they have the understanding of how to network, how corporate works, and also how to be an entrepreneur to be successful too.
Speaking of people you help, I heard a rumor that you may help some celebrities.
Just a little. Just a little few. A lot of athletes who really don't know the foundations of being a business, because a lot of them they get paid personally, and we think it's best that you pay your business to just
Hmm.
separate yourself from all that stuff and have that proper structure and support. So we kind of give them that guidance in regards to that.
That is smart. That is
Mhm.
so smart.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. That one little tidbit, if anybody's listening, right, is worth a lot. Oh, okay. Well, Richard is giving me
Giving us
the
the pen.
yeah,
You're like
pen.
the twirly
finger.
Yeah.
the twirly finger.
So how do people find you?
So they can find us on our website, Bella Sloan LLC. So that's BellaSloan LLC.com. Or they can follow me on Instagram, Haitian_CEO. We look forward to being of service to you.
Excellent. Thank you. So now we are on to our next guest, Kimberly Currie with OUI Beauty, and OUICosmetics.com is her website. And she really has a special product line. So she's going to tell us all about it. Welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you. This has been so much fun so far. So thank you for having me. My name's Kimberly Currie. I'm a master esthetician, skin educator. I own a spa and soon to be an author. I'm coming out with a book in the next few weeks, which this is the first time I'm saying that publicly. So you
Nice.
heard it here first, babes.
Oh, wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
You have to tell us about it.
I will, yeah. So I launched my product line in 2019, which was a really great year to start your business. It was- yeah, really
You're being
great.
sarcastic. Okay.
Tell me that.
Yeah. So I started my product line. Originally was a cosmetics based products line where I came out with basically what celebrities were pushing, but I thought were not that great of quality. I redeveloped and came out with what I thought was great quality. I happened to stumble into a space where a friend of mine was like, "You should start a spa again." So I opened a spa in the fall of 2019, and when I was establishing that spa, I realized that I could not find a product line for skincare that I loved their, back bar line and also their retail line. So I took that opportunity to really develop a strong product that I believed could work in a spa setting and at home. So I really focused my skincare formulation process on what I saw clients need over the past. I've been an esthetician for 14 years. What I really saw that they need. I noticed that a lot of clients believe that they, have sensitive skin, have acne, have problematic skin, when really it's a damaged barrier layer. Your skin is damaged and it's reacting because it's damaged, right? Your skin is an organ. So if you think about over time, if you damage your liver, eventually that crumbles. Your skin is the same exact way. That's why some people age better, some people age worse. So I developed a product line that's really concentrated. It's very clean. It's vegan. All the ingredients are sustainably sourced. It's paraben free. So it's things that people want in a product, but it's also very effective, and it's effective in rebuilding your barrier layer of your skin. So that's reducing your sensitivities, that's reducing your reactions, that's reducing people think they have acne when really their skin is just reacting with breakouts to what's happening to it. So I launched this product line, and then I reformulated everything to be fully vegan last year. Everything follows EU compliance. So the European Union bans over 1,600 chemicals for skincare and cosmetics, where the FDA bans less than 50. So it's a very, very clean product, and like I said, very effective. So I've been selling that in my spa for the last 4 years, and I've just reached the point in my own journey of being an entrepreneur to be able to take that nationally. So that's where I'm headed this year.
That's
Wow.
great.
Mm.
So, what is your source of motivation as an entrepreneur? What is it that you're trying to do to play it forward?
Sure. So I believe your triumphs of an entrepreneur and your value as an entrepreneur is only as great as the product that you're giving to your consumer. I don't believe that everybody that calls themselves an entrepreneur is really that valuable to society. So I really took the I really took the approach that
Kimberly's getting a reaction from other people in the studio. So,
the little snaps were cute. So I really believed that if I put out a great product, I focused on the product first and the branding second, which in the beauty industry is actually opposite. Everyone comes out with this amazing branding and bottling and packaging, but the product inside of it is crap. So I decided to take a backwards approach, and if I could never see my original packaging again, it would be too soon, but the product inside was so good. So I've really taken the approach that I'm only as good as the product that I'm giving out. It's the only product that I use. It's the only product I recommend. And it's because I do believe that it's the best because I formulated it that way.
right. Nick, do you have any questions or comments?
I'm literally like, I need you in my life. I love all of this. And I didn't even know this about the banned substances. It's amazing what you're creating. I just think it's such a future-led concept to be able to build a product in this way that we're actually using on our skin every single day. So thank
Right.
you.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't realize this, but the top 40 selling skincare brands in the country aren't founded by people that are skincare professionals.
Ooh.
So that would be
Wow.
like going to a trainer that's never worked out before
Yeah.
or a chef that's never made a dinner before, right?
Mhm.
So that's something that I was doing some research, I was deep diving all these brands, who are their founders, who made it, who's the founders, and I was like, I would never trust these people to touch. First off, they can't legally even put lotion on your skin in most states. So how are they creating a product to go out to the masses? So
I think that factoid rings true, though, because you really do, if for something as personal as skincare,
Mhm.
you really want it to come from somebody that
Knows
has a
what they're
passion
doing.
and a connection to it. So
Mhm.
I think that's amazing that you found that. Kenya?
Yeah, I wanted to like touch on diversity in the beauty space for a second, only because I feel like it depending on the brand, like some of them have cracked the code on terms of like what works well for different, ethnic backgrounds. So I'm curious to see, is that an approach that you're taking from your skincare development?
absolutely, this actually gives me kind of an emotional response here, but what doesn't? I mean, really, but this really, really
As
does.
long as it's positive.
It is.
So what you did there.
So I really, really pride myself in my spa in Pittsburgh, that we see all races and we see all ages. And I take that to heart as that we're doing something so right, because the beauty space has been so unfairly divided for its entire existence. And I take pride that I can help, girls with a lot of melanin recover from hyperpigmentation. I can advise them on what not to do to get more hyperpigmentation. I can help an elderly person that's just at a place of despair because they hate the look that they're getting. I can help recommend not only skin, but services to help them, get back to feeling better. And I can help young girls stop wasting money on TikTok trends and actually do something that's going to benefit their skin and not break the bank. So I'm so proud of the diversity in my clients that use the product and it works for them as well. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be divided. Our skin, though it looks different, it can respond very, very similarly. So thank you for asking that question. It's very important to me.
So Kimberly, I'm probably going to get on a plane to Pittsburgh. But let's say I can't get on the plane as soon as I'd like. Can I buy some of your products and use them myself? Or how would I figure out what to use and how to use it?
Absolutely. So my products can be very well mixed, right? It's not a set like you need this, you need this, you need this. But I use a lot of products that have a lot of keywords that people are starting to recognize, but I'm also directly available for all of purchases. Everything comes to me. I am self-funded. I am self-run. I do have some employees, but when you hit my Instagram, it comes to me. If you hit the website, it comes to me. I'm very, very hands-on with it. And if you are at a loss, if you're not sure what you're looking for, you can completely reach out and I'll advise you in the best way.
Okay, well, let's stick around after this show and you can advise me.
Yeah.
Nick, did you have another thought?
I'm just with you. I'm here for it. You're such a boss.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I really, really take that to heart because I was scrolling your Instagram last night and I was like, oh, I love this. Yeah, this is a great concept. So thank you, everyone. This has been a great group of people.
Sure. So what are your plans for the future? I mean, what do you want to do in 2024 with your brand?
Well, Ulta, if you're listening, yeah, so I would love to be in a national retailer. I am in a few conversations with different national retailers. I don't want to share yet because nothing is, on paper. Also looking into small regional retailers. I really want a space. I don't believe in just putting my product in anywhere that I can get in because I don't see any value in that. I want it to be in a direct sales situation where there's somebody that can advise on the product that I can actually teach as well. Because there's so much misinformation in the beauty space. I mean, a 15-year-old can upload a TikTok and it could get 4 million views and they could say, put this slime on your face. And everyone would be like, yeah, I need the slime on my face, right? And so I really believe in the education base of the sales approach because I've also seen it be so successful in my own spa. I've a 52% repurchase rate on my product in the spa and the national average is less than 35. So I've seen what it can do with a little bit of education. And that's the space that I'm hoping to get into. And yeah, that's my goal this year is to be able to be in more people's bathrooms.
Yeah.
Hey.
Say that about the kids though, because I saw something on TV where these young girls are using cosmetics and they don't know what they're doing to their skin with them.
Yeah, I submitted an article recently to Newsweek. It hasn't been published or anything about the 15-year-olds and 12-year-olds in Sephora fighting over retinol. And
Yeah.
So what's that about?
I can't be more thrilled that the next generation is more into skin than makeup. I couldn't be more thrilled, right? I love this new natural kind of approach and everyone really taking time to heal their skin. I mean, when I was in high school, it was like, here's St. Ives apricot scrub, like go scrub off your face and
Yeah.
for the best, right? So it's great, but they're following too many trends on TikTok or in social media where they're telling them like, oh, to have the perfect glossy skin, you must use retinol, this, that, and that, not realizing that the age that you're starting to use that is to get the skin that these 12-year-olds already have, right?
We're trying to get back to that.
Yeah, correct. And because when you're young, your skin cell turnover rate, so your cells on your face and on your body shed over a course of a cycle. Ultimately, you want that cycle to be around 30 days. That's healthy. Well, when you're young, that's less than 30 days, right? So as you get older, your skin and your cell turnover rate slows down and it slows down and it slows down. So
Tell me about
yeah,
it.
right? So creating, a healthy skincare routine where you're adding retinols, which retinol is a chemical exfoliant. It helps keep that cell turnover rate going at a healthy speed. That's that's making you look more youthful. It's softening the fine lines
Mhm.
and harsher lines. But these young kids, they don't need it, but they
Right.
see people with these glowy
Right.
skin saying like, I use this. Yeah, but they're using that so they can look like they're under 21 again, right?
Well,
I
what's the
know.
trick?
What's the trick?
Yeah, like
So
what's
the trick is a double cleanse every night. You got to be double cleansing your face with a very, very gentle cleanser. If it's foaming on your face when you're putting on, I want you to switch to something that's a little bit more creamy that doesn't have a sud. There's a time and place for suds, don't get me wrong. But your skincare routine at night, the perfect storm is a double cleanse with a cream cleanser, followed by a chemical exfoliant toner or a vitamin C based toner, followed by whatever your skin is needing. If you're having redness, something to fight redness. So that could be something that's a willow bark based serum. If you're looking for hydration, hyaluronic acid is one of the best ingredients that you could be looking for, because what that is, your skin already has that naturally. So the hyaluronic acid, what it does is it helps naturally protect your skin's moisture, without adding oil or something
Mhm.
heavy on top. So hyaluronic acid, if you are over 25, definitely a form of retinol. If you're using retinol, you could start at 0.1% or 0.5. I have 0.5%. If you have sensitive skin, I looked for like an oil-based retinol, not the one that's from like a dermatologist that's like a very, very harsh cream.
Mhm.
And then you can use a beauty oil. You could use a thick moisturizer with vitamin C. Those are the things that you should be looking at. Things that have antioxidants, white tea, green tea, grapeseed oil, things like that. Those are really, really good ingredients to see. And that's what my products are heavily, heavily concentrated with.
Wow, that's good.
So, changing gears just a little bit, the name of your y- the name of your product is OUI Beauty.
Over, under, and in.
Over, under, and
Wow.
in. How did you come up with that name?
So originally it was going to be we, because I had
French.
I had I lost my dad, who was my greatest inspiration to become an entrepreneur, and I went on a little bit of a spiraled girls trip to Paris actually. And there we were visiting a friend of mine who works in the perfume industry, and I just had always wanted to start a line since I was 12 years old. Those were the conversations that I was having with my dad in the car about starting a business, starting a product line. I thought I wanted to work for a line, and he said, "Well, why don't you create your own, right?" And I was, teenager, like, Dad, nobody does that, right? So I went to Paris and I saw my friend who's working in this amazing industry, and she's just still one of my biggest inspirations in this life. And I had my yes moment in France. I was like, yes, I'm gonna do this when I get back. I'm gonna start. And so we in French is yes. It was
Yes.
my yes moment, and
Yes.
I decided to create an over under and in beauty, and it all kind of just
That's great.
perfect match.
Can you tell us the name of your book, or is that still under wraps?
No, I'm so excited to talk about this. So this is actually coming from the opposite side of the product side and more into the spa ownership side. It's called the Esthetician Playbook, the shit that they don't teach you in beauty school.
Ooh.
Getting into beauty school is very, very easy. You fill out a one-page application and they take your money and they teach you just what you need to know to pass the state board test. And then they send you out and say, here, care for people's skin. And I've only hired people from my spa straight out of school. And I've learned a lot about teaching them and training them and getting them up to speed on what they need to just be able to walk into a place and touch a client.
Mhm.
And so I decided it would be a really great time to kind of just streamline that into a book and have them basically, this is what you do next when you graduate.
Well, I'm definitely talking to you after the show, but for right now, we have to wrap up this segment. So, how do people find you?
Sure. So my website is ouibeauty.co or wecosmetics.com. It leads to the same place. And my Instagram is O.U.I.beauty.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kimberly.
Thank you. Guys, this was so great. I loved it.
So, you are listening to Passage to Profit, The Road to Entrepreneurship with Richard and Elizabeth Gearhart and our media maven, Kenya Gipson, our special guest, Niyc Pidgeon, and we will be right back.
Welcome back, everybody, to Passage to Profit. I think it's been an amazing show. I've learned so much more about skincare than I've ever known, that's a good thing.
And
Thanks
it
to
works for
Kimberly.
men, it works for men too.
100%.
Is that like some sort of hint or something? And but anyway, it's time for the question. So
Yes.
Elizabeth has a question that she likes to ask at the end of every show. So
Right.
what
I'm-
is the question?
I'm going to start with Niyc Pidgeon. what is one thing that makes you happy? So I know you have many, but what is one?
Do you know what makes me happy? Going in my ice bath, that cold plunge in the morning.
Oh my
Gives
gosh.
me a certain thing.
Have you been doing that a long time or?
Probably about a year now. And I love
Yeah?
it. It was the biggest game changer getting one in the house.
Oh my gosh.
Life hack.
Wow.
You are a very brave woman. I've like tried the cold shower thing, and that's even too much for me, but an ice bath, oh my gosh, you're asking for trouble.
Okay. So Herman Dolce, can you top that? What is one thing that makes you happy?
Nothing near that. To be honest, two things. My freedom that I have with my time, and my two amazing, beautiful daughters, Bella and Olivia. They make me
Aw.
extremely happy.
Aw.
Uh,
Demaris Long, what's one thing that makes you happy? Or more than one?
Food.
Food. Are you
Agree.
hungry right now?
Sorry, but food.
That's you're not angry though. You're like the nicest person.
30 more minutes.
Okay.
So, Kimberly Currie, what's one thing that makes you happy?
My son, I have a 3-year-old son named Clark, after my father, and he is an angel among us. He is the best thing in the world.
Oh.
He
Oh.
couldn't make me
That's great.
happier.
So Kenya Gipson, what's one thing that makes you happy?
I would have to say being healthy.
That's a good thing. to
That
be
makes me
happy
very
about.
happy. It's very just such a peace of mind. So
Yeah, I agree. That's a very positive thing. What makes
Richard-
me happy? You were going to ask me, weren't
Yeah.
you? Okay. I was good night's sleep. I just
every time.
I know. I always answer this question with sleep. So I guess I must be sleep deprived or something. I don't know.
I have so many things that make me happy. My kids, food, definitely sleeping. So, but I think like for a recent experience, coming home from a trip and walking into my house and having all my creature comforts there made me very happy.
And you're gonna have a new grandbaby that's gonna make you so happy.
I am. I'm so excited. And they may have moved the due date up for various reasons, which I can talk about later, maybe, but not time now. But yeah, so could be pretty soon.
Nice.
Yay. So with that, we'll go through everybody's websites one more time quickly. So Niyc Pidgeon, NiycPidgeon.com. Get a hold of her if you want to find out how to be happy and successful.
And also check out her book, Now Is Your
Mhm.
Chance, which is available on Amazon, right?
Right. Herman Dolce and Demaris Long, Bella Sloan, LLC.com. So just like it sounds, BELLA SLOAN LLC.com. So if you want to find out how to manage money and make the best of what you have, contact them.
And their techniques for getting capital from banks sound amazing. So make sure
Yeah.
you check that out.
Yeah. And Kimberly, Kimberly Currie with OUI Beauty. It's OUIcosmetics.com. Really great skincare. So yeah, reach out.
Nothing can be better than looking great, right?
That's true.
Well, I don't know, $500,000.
I would hope so.
Well, that might help you look great. Well, anyway, that's it for us today. Anyway, well, thanks to the Passage to Profit team, our producer, Nora Fleischman, and our program coordinator, Alicia Morrissey. Look for our podcast tomorrow anywhere you get your podcasts. And you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter, and also on YouTube. And join our Facebook group, Passage to Profit Show Listener Community, where you can post questions that you would like answered on the show and interact with the Passage to Profit team. And for all your patent, trademark, and copyright needs, our firm Gearhart Law offers free consultations. So contact us at gearhartlaw.com. And while the information provided during this program is believed to be correct, never take a legal step without first checking with your legal professional. That's it for us. We'll see you next week on Passage to Profit.